Hi guys, Timmy here. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to be working on the canopy portion. You can see here I've got my windscreen. It's all done. And now it's time to move on to the canopy section. So the first step is, and I apologize, we've got some of this stuff already built up. But you guys can see that on the forum threads that I've got posted already, how I've gone about in doing that. But of course it starts with molds. And here's the windscreen mold and the canopy mold. And these are just simple cross sections here of plastic that's been filled up with most of the space taken up with balsa wood, and then the finish coat covered over with auto filler and sanded down so you get a nice smooth shape. The material that I'm going to use to actually make the clear or make the glass portion is acrylic Lexan. That stuff has to get very, very hot in order to vacuum form around this. So if I were to use this mold here as it is, it'll just melt. So that won't work. All of this plastic here will kind of melt and bond to the acrylic, and that will make a pretty bad part. To get around this, I made a plaster cast of the original mold. And you can see that on the original mold I'd used clay to make a nice round shape, so that once the vacuum part pulled over the surface, I'd get a nice smooth pull with rounded edges and make sure that it matched up with the original mold. And here is the pulled part. And you can see it's pretty rough, but that will all polish out. And that's one of the reasons that I use acrylic, is that this stuff polishes out really, really nicely and gets super clear. Alright, now that we've got the part cut out, it's time to trim the edges. And like I said, I cut it proud, so now we're going to have to get this down so that it fits the shape of the mold. There's a couple little strips of double stick tape, and so that'll hold the canopy on. So rub it against the tape, make sure it's nice and solidly placed. It's time to grab the diamond files. And I use my biggest flat one. Hold it nice and tight so that the plastic is not moving around on your form. And then just carefully and slowly. Okay, and now I've got the part completely trimmed out. The key to this is to make sure that you get lots of pressure on the edges so that you're pushing the plastic right up to the edge of the mold. And you got to do that on all sides. So you really, use the tape, but you got to push and hold that in place. So I like using a file, whether it's a regular file or a diamond file like this one. I happen to really like the diamond files, but a regular file would work. But I definitely would recommend a file, not a sanding stick or a sanding block. Those would just tend to round your edges, and it makes it more difficult. The other thing is make sure that you get the file on the same plane as the form, so it matches this angle. And so here are the tools that we'll need to do our sanding. I've got an assortment of regular wet dry papers. One of the things I do is I mark the grit number on the back so that I keep my sheets from getting confused. It's certainly awfully hard to tell just by the feel as what kind of sheet of paper it is. But I sequentially move from grit to grit, so I've got 300, 400, 600, 8,000, 1,200, 2,000. And once I'm complete with the papers, then I'll move on to these guys. These are the micro mesh sanding pads. These go from grits. I've got 2,400 down to 12,000 grit, and again you just work these down sequentially. What I like to use is actually a Sharpie marker, and I'll coat the entire inside with the marker. So just basically color the whole canopy until it goes black. And what this does is this kind of gives you an idea of where you've been. After I get this canopy completely covered in the marker, I will run it over and sand it until all of that Sharpie is gone. And I'll show you why that Sharpie is so important, or why that really helps. You take a look in there, you can see where all of the high spots where the Sharpie was is already sanded away, and the low spots are where that Sharpie's staying in there. So I know that once I get all of that Sharpie removed, that I've gotten the surface of the plastic down to one even level. All the low spots are gone. Don't have any clear spots showing through both sides. So I'm pretty happy that I've got it. You'll see there's some, you see in the light reflection there's some waviness going on, but that's still because the outside hasn't been smoothed down. I look at the inside, and one of the things that I look at quite a bit, especially with these canopies, is you can see the way the light reflects on the surface. You're really looking for nice straight lines without a whole lot of distortion in it. Again, you can see that there's some in there, but again, that's because it's on the outside. The whole canopy hasn't been done yet. Oh, and by the way, I want to show you a little disclaimer. You notice how black this is, and how black this is, and how beautiful my fingers are? That's because you're sanding now Sharpie, and so your sanding dust is now ink. So those married guys, and those ones who still live with mom, don't be using good towels for this, or you're going to be in big trouble. So I've made it now through all the grits of the micro mesh on the inside, and you can see we're pretty clear again now. Okay, still lots of ripples on the outside, but we'll take care of that. And I think if you compare it to what it was when we started, well, it should probably look about 50% better, and I think it does. Okay, and now we've got both sides polished out. So you can see we've got a much smoother surface and pretty good clarity all the way through. So pretty pleased with that. It's pretty good, but you can see there's still some work to do. Still some microfine scratches and whatnot in there. This is something that you can only do with acrylic. I haven't tried this with, I certainly wouldn't do this with a kit canopy. I wouldn't do it with anything, any of the softer vacuum form canopies that are out there. I think anything that's not as hard, at least as hard as acrylic, just isn't going to stand up to this, because we're about to hit it with a Dremel tool and a buffing wheel and using some polishing compound. This stuff I got.
Hey, Space Ghost! You know what?
What?
That's what! That's what! Get it? Hey, Space Ghost, you know what? Hey, Space Ghost, you know what? No, seriously, you know what?
What?
That's what!
And voila, there it is. A little bit of elbow grease with that polishing compound, and that's about as clear as it gets. And again, take a look at the clarity in there. It's going to be no problem. You'll see all kinds of goodies in that cockpit when it's done. Okay guys, that's it for part one. Next time around we'll be throwing a canopy onto the jet and start working on the framework. See ya!